Imagine you're traveling in a foreign country. You're on vacation, or maybe just passing through. And while you're there, you have a baby. Now, does that baby automatically belong to that country? Do they get a passport, full legal rights, and citizenship just because they drew their very first breath on that specific patch of soil? For almost every nation in Europe and Asia, the answer is a firm no. But if you're standing right here in the United States, the answer is yes. Automatically, no questions asked. It's called birthright citizenship, or just solely, the right of the soil. And today, it's one of the most fiercely debated legal policies in American politics. Some call it the ultimate symbol of the American dream. Others call it a legal loophole that needs to be closed. But here's what most people don't realize. Birthright citizenship wasn't actually created to welcome immigrants. In fact, its origin story involves an infamous Supreme Court case, a bloody civil war, a fight for basic voting rights, and a single Chinese laundryman who refused to back down. By the end of this video, you're gonna see why this 150-year-old debate is far from over. So grab a drink, hit that subscribe button, and let's rewind the clock.
To understand how we got here, we actually have to go back way before the US Constitution even existed, back to Old English common law. Under British rule, if you were born within the King's Kingdom, you were automatically a natural-born subject. You owed loyalty to the Crown, and the Crown's owed you protection. Simple, right? When the United States won its independence, it kept this basic rule. If you were born on American soil, you were a citizen. Well, with one massive, tragic catch. In 1857, the US Supreme Court handed down what is widely considered the worst decision in its history, Dred Scott versus Sanford. Dred Scott was an enslaved black man who sued for his freedom after his owner took him to live in free states and territories. But Chief Justice Roger Taney didn't just reject Scott's claim, he went nuclear. He declared that black people, whether enslaved or free, were never intended to be citizens under the Constitution and had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. Think about how catastrophic that was. With one ruling, millions of people born right here on American soil were stripped of any legal path to citizenship. The nation was already pulling itself apart over slavery. Dred Scott poured gasoline on the fire. 4 years later, the Civil War erupted. When the Civil War ended in 1865, the Union was restored, and slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. But that left a massive legal vacuum. If 4 million formerly enslaved people were now free, what were they? Were they citizens? Did they have rights? Southern states immediately started passing black codes, laws designed to strip black Americans of basic rights and force them back into virtual servitude. Congress realized that simply ending slavery wasn't enough. They had to guarantee citizenship in a way no future Supreme Court could ever undo. So in 1868, they ratified the 14th Amendment. And right at the top, in Section 1, they wrote these immortal words: "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside." Boom. Dred Scott was officially dead. If you were born on US soil, you are a citizen. Period. Well, almost period. Pay attention to those 6 words, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Back in 1868, lawmakers meant to exclude a few specific groups: foreign diplomats who have immunity, and foreign armies occupying US soil. But they also excluded Native Americans living on tribal lands, because tribes were viewed as separate sovereign nations. Hold that thought on Native Americans, because we're coming back to them in a minute, and it's going to shock you. So the 14th Amendment fixed the issue for formerly enslaved people. But what about the children of foreign immigrants moving to America? Enter Wong Kim Ark. In 1873, Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco.
His parents were Chinese immigrants who lived and worked legally in the US.
Around this time, anti-Chinese sentiment was surging, leading to the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which explicitly banned Chinese immigrants from becoming naturalized US citizens. When Wong Kim Ark was in his early 20s, he took a trip to China to visit family. When he tried to sail back home to San Francisco, US border officials stopped him at the dock and said, "You can't come in. You're not a citizen." They argued that because his parents were citizens of the Emperor of China, Wong Kim Ark was technically subject to China's jurisdiction, not the US. Wong Kim Ark said, "No way, I was born in California." And he took his fight all the way to the United States Supreme Court. In 1898, in United States versus Wong Kim Ark, the Supreme Court ruled 6-2 in his favor. The court declared that the 14th Amendment meant exactly what it said. If you are born on US soil, even if your parents are foreign citizens who can't naturalize, you are an American citizen from day one. This landmark ruling cemented birthright citizenship for the children of immigrants forever. Now, you might think, great, problem solved. Everyone born here is a citizen, they can vote, and everyone lives happily ever after. Not so fast, because having citizenship on paper is one thing, being able to actually exercise your rights is a whole different story. Remember how Native Americans were left out of the 14th Amendment? It wasn't until 1924, more than 50 years later, that Congress passed the Indian Citizenship Act, finally granting birthright citizenship to all Native Americans born in the US, largely in recognition of the thousands of Native soldiers who fought in World War I. So now Native Americans and Black Americans were legal citizens. But did that mean they could vote? No. For decades, individual states used brutal legal loopholes to keep minority citizens away from the ballot box. They used literacy tests with impossible trick questions, poll taxes, intimidation, and outright violence. It took another 4 decades of intense civil rights struggle, marches, protests, and bloody clashes until President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act finally put federal muscle behind the 14th and 15th Amendments. It banned literacy tests and sent federal overseers to make sure every citizen, regardless of race or background, could actually cast a ballot. This was the moment where birthright citizenship and true democratic representation finally aligned. Which brings us right back to today.
If birthright citizenship has been settled by the Constitution and the Supreme Court for over a century, why are we still talking about it? Well, the modern debate centers once again on those 6 words from 1868, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Critics of birthright citizenship argue that the framers of the 14th Amendment never intended for the rule to apply to children born to undocumented immigrants or foreign tourists. Some politicians have proposed passing new laws or issuing executive orders to end or restrict birthright citizenship. On the other side, most legal scholars and constitutional experts point straight back to the Wong Kim Ark case. They argue that jurisdiction simply means being subject to US laws, meaning if you have to follow US laws while standing on US soil, you are under its jurisdiction. Therefore, altering birthright citizenship would require a full constitutional amendment, which needs a 2/3 majority in Congress and 38 states to ratify.
So, looking back across history, birthright citizenship was never just a technical legal rule. It was born out of the ashes of the Civil War to heal a divided country. It was tested by immigrants building a new life. It was expanded by Native Americans fighting for recognition in their own land. And it was protected by civil rights pioneers who fought to make sure citizenship actually meant equality. What do you think? Do you believe birthright citizenship is an essential pillar of American identity? Or is it time for the legal definition to evolve? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read as many as I can. And if you enjoyed this historical deep dive, leave a like and share this video with someone who loves history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.